Hey, how are you, Dr. Jamil?
I'm doing wonderful, Jackie. How are you?
Great, great. Can't complain. In
It seems like
Florida,
you've got some amazing nature and weather behind you.
yes, it is really beautiful, like mid 80s, nice cool breeze, so not too far from the beach, so it's a nice day.
That's amazing. I'm really excited for this conversation. The last one we did was not only well received, but it was so much fun.
It was, it was.
Yeah.
I'm excited too. I mean, it's 6 o'clock here in Florida, so this is like prime happy hour time, but I'd rather be here chatting with you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, we talked kind of briefly, and I told you, a little bit about what I was hoping to look at and talk to tonight. But one of the things that I've realized with my clients is that a lot of times that I have them focus on outcome-based goals, meaning like they want to lose weight, they want to develop lean muscle, increase energy. These are more things that are outcome based. It's what people want to achieve. But I often find that people really know what to do and how to do it, but they, no matter how rational it is, they just actually can't do it. And I started kind of reading about habits and in this book, Atomic Habits.
I've heard
And
about that book.
yeah, it's a great book. And they talked about identity based goals and helping people. One of the reasons that people struggle with sticking with their habits is because they don't identify, that's not part of their identity to act in that way. So I've learned about identity based goals, more looking at who do you want to become instead of what do you want to achieve.
Mhm.
So I was wondering, I know with some of the work that you do, that you really help people become who they want to be. So, what is your experience? And
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there's a lot there. So I want to start
yeah,
with,
sorry,
yeah,
overload.
no, it's good. No, it's good. There's a couple things there. So the first thing, when it comes to somebody has something that they want to do, right? And then you mentioned they don't stick to it. They feel like they can't do it. And then you might say, why do they have a hard time creating the habit? Why do they have a hard time sticking with whatever it is they want to do? And I think
Right,
there's a couple reasons for that. And I think the first one that's really important is getting really clear on why it is they want to do whatever it is they want to do. Oftentimes I tell people that when you lose your motivation for what you're doing, it's because you've lost track of why you're doing it. When you
right,
don't remember anymore why it's important and why it matters, who you're doing it for, it's really easy to just run into some hardship and then just think, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? You
right,
know? So, first of all, getting really clear, why am I doing this? That matters. The next one that really comes up for me is oftentimes people have this outcome based goal. I'll use weight as an example. I want to lose 50 pounds. That's somebody's goal. And they lose 10 of them so far, and they're closer to the 50. Now, they have two ways they can look at it. They can look at it and say, well, I'm still failing because I'm not at 50 yet. Or they can look at it and celebrate it because they've made significant progress and they're closer to getting there. Oftentimes, in my experience, people don't celebrate the small wins along the way, and
right,
they only think of this end goal. I want to get here, and like none of this matters. But the thing
right,
is but that's not true. And if you do that, it's only going to discourage you because it's like every time you get on the scale, every time you look in the mirror, every time you look at your bank account, whatever the goal is, until you get there, you're going to be miserable. And it's
right.
because
Feel
you're
like a
not,
failure.
yeah, and it's because you're not honoring the process. You're not enjoying the process along the way. And when we
Right,
recognize that, okay, why do I want it? Get really clear on that to remind myself, re-motivate myself, okay, this is where I'm headed. And then as I make progress along the way, let me celebrate that. I'm doing really good. I'm closer than I was yesterday. That's something to really celebrate. And when you celebrate it, it's a form of positive reinforcement. So when you get
right,
positive reinforcement, just like with a child, just like with a dog, it works with us too. It works with everything. Positive reinforcement is going to give you that dopamine hit. It's going to really make you feel good with what
right.
you're doing. And that's going to make you want to
Definitely.
keep doing it. And then the
Yeah,
last thing, why you want it, the celebrating of the wins. But then there's a real question to dive into yourself and ask, who am I doing this for? Oftentimes, people who have a hard time staying motivated to do something, it's because they don't actually want to do it. They're doing something that, as I used weight as an example before, I'll stick with that. I want to lose weight, but it really is because I want certain people to validate me and love me more, and I think that losing this weight will do that. Now I'm going to have a harder time losing the weight because I think I'm fine the way that I am. Like, I don't want to lose it. And so first and foremost, even before why does it matter, get clear on who you're doing it for. If you're doing it for you, and then maybe you just lost track of the why, then do it for you, figure out the why, celebrate the small wins along the way. And then if you want to keep a journal or something, keep reminding yourself. It's like a weekly check-in, let's say. Oh, this week I've made 3 steps forward in this direction. This week I made progress in this way. And then when you reread it, it's proof that it's working. You know, it's proof that you're moving in the right direction.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I even have, just kind of celebrating like successes of just developing the habits that are leading to the weight loss and healthy behaviors. Just, well, hey, like maybe the number on the scale didn't turn out the way you wanted to be, but look at what you have improved upon. Like now you're drinking more water, you're eating smaller meals more frequently, you're getting into these habits that are setting you up for success. So it's like celebrating that as small wins as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we think of it like this. Everybody, for the most part, we all want our cheerleaders. We all want a group of people, or even one person, someone who's going to say, hey, you're doing a good job. Like someone who's going to really acknowledge you and appreciate you for what you do. Now, you can do that for yourself. Like, it's nice to have it outside, but you can't control that. You can't control other people and what they're going to say and what they're going to do, or how often they're going to say it. But you can definitely control how often you celebrate yourself. And so if you're celebrating those wins along the way, it's going to give you that momentum.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So do you find that, I know when we spoke one time, you kind of really helped me sort of like understand that, the way that I was feeling about myself was kind of limiting my actions that I was actually taking. And like that's where, really kind of stuck in me with this identity-based goals type thing, because I wasn't identifying as this person. And so I was afraid to act on it. So, you kind of really helped point it out and gave me some strategies that, one of them was just kind of like keeping a list of all the times that you did act in this way, and or that people pointed out that this is how you are, this is, one of the things that you do well. So what in your experience have you also done to help people to really see kind of who they are or who they want to become?
Yeah. So I think it's really important first to preface it with a simple framework of just how thought leads to the result that you want. And so I'm going to put identity into this in the big picture. So we've got your thoughts and your beliefs. And let's say that's kind of step one. And then that leads, your thoughts and your beliefs influence the amount of action that you're going to take.
Right.
Because if you don't believe you're capable of doing something, you're probably not going to do it. And if you only kind of think you can do it, you're only kind of going to take action.
Right.
And then so your thoughts and beliefs influence the action you take, which influences the results that you get. And when you can see that and you go, okay, I have to reverse engineer it. So I'm going to start with the end in mind, and I'm going to say, what's the result I'm after? And then, all right, now I know the result. What are the actions I need to take? But then, all right, now I have the actions, but even more importantly, what are the thoughts and the beliefs and the identities that I need to internalize and believe that will allow me to consistently take those actions? Because success takes time, and you're not going to get there from one action.
Right.
It's a consistency. It's a patience. It's a long game.
Right.
I remember one of my mentors, Gary Vee, talks about this idea of it's micro speed and macro patience, right?
I
and
like
it's
that.
like,
That's a good one.
Yeah. And he's definitely great at what he does. And so this idea, though, that now I know the result that I'm after, the actions I need to take, but now what kind of person do I need to be? And then, the question there, when you said, how do you identify? That's really important because, the two most important words are really I am. And whatever you put after I am is going to influence you. Because I'm going to make it, a little bit negative here. If we say somebody's standing in the corner and they say, I'm worthless, I'm not enough, I don't have what it takes.
Right.
If you say these words, what you're doing is you're programming your subconscious mind. You're planting seeds into this garden of your mind, and these flowers that are sprouting that are like toxic, they're poisonous, and you don't like these. But if you focus on the flowers, more is just going to come. You need to look at the soil. You have to look at the seed. You have to look at what have I been planting, and I need to change the way that I'm speaking to myself. And so if I can change the way I identify, to give you an example, I had a client a while ago now. He'd smoked for 10 years, cigarettes, and he wanted to quit smoking. And he tells me, I've tried quitting for a long time. Nothing has worked. I might quit for a couple of days, and then I end up going back to it. We had 1 2-hour conversation. He hasn't smoked in 6 years. And the thing is, in that conversation, it was an identity shift that did it. Because if I smoke, and I tell you, Jackie, I'm a smoker, and I want to quit smoking. Well, the truth is that's not possible, because what does a smoker do?
You've already said you're a smoker. So if you're a smoker, you're going to smoke.
Yeah, it's like, what do smokers do? Smokers smoke. And so a smoker can't not smoke for an extended period of time because that's who they are. And we all have this need to be congruent with who we believe ourselves to be.
Right.
If I say, Jackie, if you tell me I am not a liar, I'm an honest person, and then an opportunity comes for you to lie, every fiber of your being is going to reject that and go away from it, because you're going to go, that's not me. And then if you do it, you're going to feel really guilty later on, because you're saying, that wasn't me. Who was that? I don't know why I did that, because it's out of your identity. So with this guy, I was able to help him shift that identity of, I'm not a smoker anymore. I used to be, but I no longer choose that. Just because you've been something in the past up until this point doesn't mean you need to continue doing it. The past doesn't equal the future unless you let it. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it makes 100% sense. And, kind of starting off with where you were talking about, just at the beginning when you were talking, I lost track. Someone walked by, like squirrel, sorry.
Shiny.
But, like those small wins, like it's like you have to, and getting yourself to act, you have to believe in it and you have to identify with it so that you make those actions happen over and over and over again. Because a lot of times my clients, they've spent years telling themselves, like, I'm just not athletic, I'm a bad eater, and so they start to believe that that's them and that's all that they are able to do, and they keep acting in that way. But the more they take those actions and identify with, being someone that's committed or values health and wellness, then that's going to reprogram their subconscious, because now they're constantly making those actions based on who they can see themselves as and who they want to become.
Yeah. And if you think about it like this, anything that you say after I am, for the most part, it might be universal, I'm just covering my bases here, is not true. This is why. If I say I'm a healthy eater, well, no, technically, I have a habit of being a healthy eater. I have a pattern of eating healthy. I have tendencies to eat healthy because I made it a habit. I've chosen to do it several times, so now it's pretty easy for me. But I wasn't always like that. How about if I told you, when I was younger, I wasn't a walker, and now I am. Well, how did that happen? Because I wasn't born walking, and I couldn't do it when I was born. And how long do you give the average baby until you say, maybe walking's not for you?
Not for you, right?
Yeah. I wasn't able to swim always. I wasn't able to ride a bike always. I wasn't able to do any of the things that I can do now. And now I can. And the thing is, it's because I didn't identify as it. It was, that's something I want to do. I can't do it now, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be able to do it tomorrow or the next day. And the only way I'm going to get there is if I keep putting myself out there and keep trying. So anytime we say, I have a habit of, that gets you out of it, because if you can catch yourself, I am this, if you say, I'm an emotional state, I am anxious, I am depressed, also not true. I have a habit of being those things, but it's because it's a habit of thinking. And when we can realize the thoughts and the beliefs that we focus on lead to our feelings, and then we realize the thoughts and the beliefs that we act on lead to our actions, which lead to our results, it really always comes back to the thoughts and the beliefs. And when you can start there and really clean house there, you might have had a whole lifetime of being conditioned to think a certain way. You might have been through some really horrendous experiences that have conditioned you to really believe that you are these things. Doesn't mean it's true, but again, my heart's with you. It doesn't mean it's true, but it does mean that it's true for you right now, but there's something that you can do to get out of it. But if you trap yourself in this cage of like hopelessness, this cage of it's always going to be this way, then you're never going to take the action to change, because you're going to think, what's the point? Nothing's going to happen anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What do you do when you're working with people to kind of help them so that they don't have the repeated like negative self-talk? That's something that, I struggle with, or that I try to help my clients see, like that they don't need to necessarily attach to the thought that they're having. They can kind of let it go. And, but I struggle with really kind of different strategies to get people to kind of refocus, or just not attached to constantly thinking that they are a certain person, or having like the negative dialogue.
Mm-hmm. So I know a big part of it for me is the process of inquiry, which is just questioning basically what you're saying. Question your thoughts. A thought comes up. I always do this. I always fail at this. And if you were to stop and really investigate, is that thought true? There's not one time that I did it right. There's not one time that I did a great job. And you'll realize, well, no, there was a time, and then there was that second time, and then, oh yeah, last week I did it right. Humans, we have this thing that evolutionarily, our mind is programmed to notice what's wrong. And it's for a survival. If you didn't notice what was wrong, there you are in the savannah picking some berries from the bush, and and you're looking around, and there's a leopard or a tiger or something in the tree, kind of camouflaged. But because you're programmed to see what's missing, what's wrong, what's not right here, you might see it. And if you see it, you'll run away, and it keeps you alive. If you don't notice it and you're completely oblivious and you only focus on what's great and what's right and what you want to see, then that means you're going to die. That was back in the day. But now we have the same evolutionary programming, this 2 million year old brain. We have a very different society. And so if you're going to focus on, I always mess up, if I gave you, not me specifically, but if you got 99 compliments from people and then you got one criticism, you typically focus on the one criticism, and you try to discount the 99 compliments. In that same way, that negative thought, or that perceived negative thought of I'm not good enough, or I never do it right, or I always do this, or I always mess up, or whatever it is, question it and really find out, is it actually true? It's never true. And the thing is that when you can dive into it and find out that no, it's not true, then it's like, okay, well then why do I believe it? And then you can find out where it's coming from. Sometimes like the process of speaking it out, having a friend to confide in, having a coach, having a family member, having a journal, something that you can get it out of your head and onto paper. The amount of times people tell me, I was feeling really anxious, or I was feeling really depressed, or I was feeling really down, and then I got to write it out, and before I knew it, I had like 30 pages. And now it's like, wow, I feel like, even though it was just on paper, I feel heard. I feel more understood. And I feel lighter emotionally, because it's not in here anymore, it's out there. So that's one way
sometimes
to do it.
when, I know like when you write it down on paper, a couple things happen, but it's like you see it and then you realize that it's not true. It's like looking at it, it's like, that's kind of crazy that I even thought that. But, also kind of the journaling and keeping track of it really, when you are having those feelings, like, you kind of got me in to do is like go back and look at that. And here's countless examples of times when that wasn't the case. And that was definitely very helpful, the journaling part. But I still struggle with writing stuff down. I like,
Yeah.
I've got to learn to like write it down and throw it away or something. I don't know, but be able to have it, take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, I don't want someone to find the things that I wrote down.
Well, a lot of people actually have like a ceremony, or even if it's just them. And what they'll do is they'll write in their journal or loose leaf paper, whatever it is, they write it all out. And they get to the point where is everything that's in my heart, that's in like this grieving process or whatever it is, out? Is it on paper? Do I feel lighter? And once the answer is yes, and they can say that like authentically, then they literally burn the paper. But it's like a ceremony because it's a letting go. It's gone. Like you're watching it smoke away.
Right. Yeah. My son actually did that with his books at the end of 5th grade.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a bad, 5th grade was not good for him. He needed to let it go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, that is, really all these things that we kind of just touched upon is definitely something, in both of our practices that is helpful. And I found, just with now that I'm doing more health coaching, not just personal training, that it's really kind of looking at behaviors and habits and, the self-talk and all of that. So it's great that, I can kind of lean on you and ask you questions based on your professional knowledge and experience. So, I mean, I think that for me, it's going to be like a big game changer in helping my people actually achieve lasting results. So,
I'm so happy to be here. And just there's this other thing that we kind of hit on it. But if you were to write down me in 20 years, on paper, like that was the heading. And then you wrote down a list of all the things that you would be. I am, like, as if it was right now. I am this, I am this, I am that. Well, all these things. For example, emotional states, confidence, let's say, as an example, these are not things that you need to go to. These are things that you need to come from. And so when you realize that an emotional state, the difference between somebody who's confident and someone who's not confident is a choice. Coupled with, it becomes a habit in one person because it's just who I am. But they're not investigating it. It's not that it's who they are. It's that they have conditioned themselves to be that way. There's this great quote I remember hearing, a hero is no braver than any ordinary man. He's only braver 5 minutes longer. If you go back into like, the stories, like, the mythology where it's like the knight is in the village and there's like a cave in the mountains with a dragon in it. And the dragon's going to come tomorrow and burn the whole place down. Now that knight is scared out of her mind, but she is more afraid of her family being killed. She's more afraid of her friends being killed, of her home being taken away. So she's going to go out there to kill this dragon, even though she's afraid, because she's more afraid of what happens if she doesn't do it. So people think that, I need to have courage in order to do that. It's like, no, you need to choose to be courageous. And what is courage? Courage means you are afraid and you do it anyway. But people think of courage as this state of fearlessness. And that's not what it is at all. But if you tell yourself that story, that lie, and you believe it, it will be true for you.
Right.
And so people discount the words we use, the stories we tell ourselves, the lies that we repeat over and over and over again until they become true. And so if I can leave anybody with anything, anytime you have a thought and that thought doesn't make you feel good, it's causing any degree of pain, any degree of suffering, question it. And question it deeply, like go so deep. Is it true? How do you know that that's true? What are all the examples of it being not true? What are all the examples of it being true? And you find out that, all right, no, the situation's not as bad as I thought it was. All right, yeah, I have done it right several times. All right, so then I can let go of this lie then. And the more you do it, the more you get conditioned to do it. And so when you get clear on this list, these are all the things that I want to be. Read it, look at it, and then come from this place, because then ask yourself, okay, what would this person do in the situation I'm in right now? How would this person
Right.
handle the conflict and the hardships and whatever it is that I have? How would they handle the opportunities that I have right now? And act as if you were that person. And when you
Right.
act as if you're that person, you become that person now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I said in my, one of my lives at some point in time, like that you basically have to think that way. Like, who is the person that I want to be, and what would they do in this situation right here, right now, standing, in the grocery store, choosing what to have? What would somebody that is and lives an active lifestyle, and what would they choose, what would they do, and just do it and
Yeah.
till you become it. So but it's
Yeah.
not, I always kind of hated the like fake it till you make it type kind of thing, but it's not that you're faking it, it's just
Yeah.
getting out of your head and taking actions that are leading you in directions that are serving of you. So
Yeah. And I agree.
yeah.
It's not a matter of faking it. It really is like be it to become it, which kind of doesn't make sense because you're already it. But
Yeah.
I'll give you use the grocery store. So this is what came to mind when you said that. Imagine that you're not a social person. Imagine you don't really speak to people you don't know, and you use one word answers all the time, and you're very shy, and you want to get out of that. And so on your paper, 20 years from now, you're not necessarily extroverted, but you're this confident person who can hold their own in a conversation. You're not afraid of strangers, and you just talk to them, right? So now you're
Right.
in the grocery store, and you're next in line. And this morning, you just happened to review that list. And you have it fresh in your mind that, okay, how can I be more like outgoing? How can I be more charismatic? How can I be more confident? And the person goes, hi, welcome to, Safeway. How you doing today? And instead of just going, fine, and you don't look at them, you just say, oh, I'm having a good day. This happened and this happened. How are you doing? How was your weekend? And all of a sudden, they're like, thank you so much for asking. No
Yeah.
one said anything, and it's been kind of boring here. And that lifted me up. And then you walk away, and you're like, wow, like that, I didn't die. Like that wasn't that
Right.
bad.
Exactly. Did you die?
Yeah, so now it's like their experience has been enriched. You have a reference point now to look back from this moment on to go, last time I was in the grocery store and I spoke to someone I didn't know, it wasn't that bad. So then the next day, you're out somewhere and you're in an elevator and somebody walks in and it's just the two of you. And before, you would have just stared at the ground for 20 floors as you went up. But
Right.
now they
Right.
walk in and you might have some small talk. You might say something because why not? You just talk to them.
Exactly.
And then before you know it, that's how you become that person in 20 years by being it
Right.
now. It's not
Right.
faking it. It's just doing it to a smaller degree.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because if someone wants to learn a sport or any type of game, they have no problem of practicing it and failing it and continuing and, just keep going with it. But for some reason, when it comes to like habits of, in my experience with people around eating and working out, they give up so much faster. They
Yeah.
don't have that patience to just realize like sometimes we fail, but we just kind of keep going and keep practicing and keep doing it until it becomes
Mm-hmm.
second nature almost. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
so
this,
I think,
and no,
go
go for it.
ahead. I was going to say, I think it was really good that you the importance of like the why and becoming clear on that, and also who are you doing it for. That's great. I think something that kind of came up several times was just that list, and I think that was really a huge eye opener for me, is like writing down examples of things that have happened to prove my thoughts wrong, and having that as a reference. And as you said, if you look at it in the morning before you go out, it's fresh on your mind. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's definitely an awesome strategy. So
Yeah. And if
yeah.
you bring it full circle about this why, because again, think about it, and from your perspective, in your work, in my work, and for anyone listening, you go to somebody for help, or somebody comes to you, in your case, Jackie, and they say, you say, how can I help you? What brings you in today? All these kind of things. And they might say, I want to lose 50 pounds. If you don't investigate it and you just say, great, here's your meal plan, here's your exercise
Right.
plan, this is what you got to do. And then you wonder why that they weren't compliant, why they didn't do it, why they gave up or they quit or whatever it was. When instead, imagine they walk in and you ask them why they're there and they say, I want to lose 50 pounds. And you might say, and why is that? And they tell you, and then you might say, let's imagine you lost to 50 pounds. How would life be different? What would that do for you? And then you get really deep into why they actually want it. That's going to increase their degree of commitment to this. And that's going to get them really clear on, is this actually something that I really want?
Right.
And all of a sudden, you get somebody that gets the results they're looking for, which is why bringing it again full circle, we started with, why do you want it to begin with? Because if it's strong enough, you figure out a way to make it happen.
Right. And I think that's another good point about like really digging deep into the why, because people could say like, real quick, like, why do you want to do this? Well, I just would like to fit in my clothes better. But it's like, well, why is that important? And then just, I've heard people say like, ask yourself 7 times before you finish, like really get deep with why that is, not just the quick surface level answer, because then you'll be more attached to it.
Because think about it, going back to the stories we tell ourselves, and you said the clothing as an example. Let's say, I'm going to use men's pant sizes because I don't really know the ladies' sizes. Let's say a guy has like a 38-inch or a 39-inch or a 40-inch waist, and he decides, I want to lose weight because I can't really fit into that anymore, right? Now, on the surface, he could always just go get a bigger size. Not fitting into the pants is a neutral thing. It's, instead of a 38 or a 39, I'm a 42 now. And by just acknowledging that, because it's neutral, it's just a fact, okay. But now there's a story in my head of why it's not okay for me to be a 42. There's a story in my head of what people are going to think, what I'm going to think, how I'm going to feel about myself. That's what needs to get dove into. And so when you get really clear on why people want to do what they want to do, that's what gets them where they want to be.
Right. Yeah. Jamil, it is always so awesome to talk to you. I love your energy. It's always great. So, that hike you did the other day looked awesome. So
it was amazing.
Yeah.
We are at the top of this mountain for anyone watching. It's in Tucson, Arizona, called Mount Wrightson. It's about 10,000 feet. I think it's like 9,500 or something like that. And first time we went, it was covered with snow, big snowstorm the weekend before. And we didn't realize it would have been that bad. And the whole way up this thing, we were knee deep in snow. And so we get 95% of the way and we have to turn around because nobody made it that high. And if we did go to the top, we would have been going back in darkness. So it wouldn't have been safe.
Yeah.
This time, snow melted. We got up there way faster. And it was so fun. And at the top, it felt like we were on top of the world. It was amazing.
Yeah, you do. That is the one thing missing here in Florida. There are no mountains. It's so flat.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to run up a hill, but there's not a single hill around here. So, well, awesome. So do you have anything that you want to say kind of in conclusion here?
Really just that I really hope that everyone who's been watching has gotten so much out of this. If I can ever support you further, you can find me here on Facebook, just in my name, Jamil Sayegh, or you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Jamil Sayegh, DR, and then my name, or my website, jamilsayegh.com. Items that you
Awesome. You also have, if you don't mind putting down in the comments your link for your book that you have.
Absolutely.
On breakthroughs. Yeah. If you could put that in the comments, I think that would be great for my audience. So.
Yeah, so just so people have a little context, it's just called 20 Steps to Your Next Breakthrough. It's a quick, actionable read. I think it's like 72 pages, something like that. Every chapter is between 1 and 3 pages. And it's really designed to give you quick things. You can read it in 5 minutes per chapter. You can apply it immediately, and you can start getting the results you're looking for. So I'll put that in the comments below.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Thanks so much again for